We're up to number 79 in my Best Picture Marathon. Say hi to your mother. Best Picture Marathon theme song. Filmmaker Martin Scorsese had directed some of the most iconic and influential American films of the 20th century. But by the early 2000s, his films had yet to win Oscars for Best Picture or Director. That changed with his 2006 film The Departed. With a screenplay by William Monahan, The Departed tells the story of two men who are living dual lives. Billy Costigan, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is a cop working undercover in the Boston Mafia run by Frank Costello, played by the great Jack Nicholson. But Costello has his own spy inside the Boston State Police, Colin Sullivan, played by Matt Damon. Throughout the story, these two moles are trying to uncover each other's identities, as well as navigating the minefield of living a double life. The film was released by Warner Brothers, and one of the producers on it was Brad Pitt. The studio originally announced that he was going to be playing the part of Colin Sullivan, but Pitt felt that he was too old for the part, so it ultimately went to Matt Damon. Which makes sense because Matt Damon's actually from Boston, which is where the movie takes place. The cast also includes Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen, Vera Farmiga, Ray Winstone, Anthony Anderson, and Alec Baldwin in the scene-stealing role. The original music was composed by Howard Shore, whom we've talked about before, and Scorsese's regular editor, Thelma Schoonmaker, won an Oscar for her excellent work on this film. One of the most unique things about The Departed as an Oscar winner is that it's one of the very rare Best Picture winners that's actually a remake of an earlier film. In this case, it's a remake of a 2002 Hong Kong thriller, Infernal Affairs, directed by Andrew Lau and Alan Mack, and starring Andy Lau and Tony Leung. But even though these movies tell essentially the same story with the same narrative beats and more or less the same characters, they're very different movies. Infernal Affairs was made just a few years after Hong Kong was returned from the British Empire back to China, so the movie is largely about defining one's own identity rather than having an identity thrust upon one. The Departed, on the other hand, is much more about the idea of corruption and identity and the cost of living a dual life. Some critics have noted that the theme of Catholic guilt is woven throughout the story, which is not uncommon in Scorsese's films. At one point before becoming a filmmaker, he did consider joining the priesthood. And of course, stylistically, the two films are very different. I go back and forth on which one I like better. Infernal Affairs has a shorter, tighter script. The Departed is longer, but it has a really engaging, kinetic style. Both films have great performances, and I honestly just really like them both. Of course, lots of movies have dealt with the idea that cop and criminal are two sides of the same coin. Michael Mann's Heat is a great example, but few movies have done it as entertainingly or with such style and energy as The Departed. The Departed actually pays homage to a number of classic crime films like The Third Man and the original Scarface, from which Scorsese borrows an X motif. Out of the 5 films nominated for Best Picture for 2006, The Departed would certainly be my choice, though I do really like Little Miss Sunshine, but there were some other really terrific films that came out that year. Honestly, my personal favorite is probably Casino Royale, but of course a James Bond movie would never win Best Picture. But I also really like the films Little Children, Pan's Labyrinth, Children of Men, and The Lives of Others, which won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film that year. Alright, next up, No Country for Old Men. I'll see you then, friendo.